Ayyash is a professor of sociology at Mount Royal University. He joins me now live from Calgary in Canada. Great to have you here with us on TRT World. Let's be honest, the world has failed the people of Gaza, and the only thing that is basically helping them survive at this point is their own resilience.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. The resilience of the Palestinian people is all that is keeping them alive right now. The situation is beyond our ability to even understand and comprehend it from a distance, honestly. People are talking about they haven't fed their children in 10 days. I don't know who here listening has an experience like that and know what to do in that situation. The world has entirely left the Palestinian people out on their own, left to die, left to suffer, left to experience unimaginable pain and suffering. Unless something drastic happens in the immediate future, it's going to continue, and the suffering is going to continue. It's going to even get even worse, which is hard to imagine at this point. But I don't know how many times we're going to be saying the same things, which is that Israel will not change its behavior unless it is forced to do that. And the world continues to not take the necessary step to force Israel to take a different course of action. This is going to be a dark mark on the entire world for years and years to come.
Indeed, it will be. Now, Muhannad, you mentioned forcing Israel or Netanyahu to change course of action, and I believe there's only one person who can do that. It's Donald Trump. And I remember asking this question to the former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, and he also told me that if there's one person who can squeeze Netanyahu, and then that person is Donald Trump. And I understand right now there is some sort of friction between the two leaders. Do you think this friction could possibly serve as an opportunity for a ceasefire?
So I'm not going to deny the friction, but I don't want to overstate it either. If you just listen to the Trump speech in Saudi Arabia, for example, just a few days ago, the narrative hasn't changed at all. He's still talking about October 7th as if that's the beginning of history. He's talking about Hamas as being the main obstacle to peace and stability. He's talking about the hostages as, the primary focus of his sympathies towards what is happening in the region. There was no mention of the deliberate starvation of the Palestinian people. There's no mention of the deliberate massacres and killings of thousands of Palestinians. No mention of their forcible displacement from their homes and lands, which he is on the record as being in favor of. So none of the fundamentals have changed in Trump's approach, even though that they're having this moment of so-called friction. On this trip to the Middle East, Trump basically got everything that he wanted for the U.S. without giving up anything on Palestine or Gaza, apart from a few statements about how they would like to see this end, how they would like to see more humanitarian aid being allowed into Gaza. But they're not allowing the United Nations to do that work. They want their own sort of aid fund or agency, whatever that plan was, to do that work, even though, of course, it would be much better to leave it in the hands of experts at the United Nations. There's no sign of any real pressure being placed on the Netanyahu government at this point to take that ceasefire. Now, look, there are some diplomats and analysts in Qatar and other places saying there seems to be some momentum towards a ceasefire. Maybe that's true, but I'm not holding my breath. And even if there is, we don't know what kind of terms are being really discussed. Is it going to be a real ceasefire, a real actual long-term ceasefire, or is it another pause that Israel is going to violate from day one and continue to violate until they decide to stop following it altogether? I've not seen anything to suggest that we're not continuing on this path. and Rubio made those comments about being troubled by the humanitarian situation in Gaza, and immediately goes to the US's plan for aid, which again is not the best plan by any stretch of the imagination. So I do think that countries around the world need to. This is an opportunity for many countries around the world to take the lead here ahead of the US. I know that Trump can immediately put pressure on Netanyahu and force everything to stop tomorrow. This is understood. But we can't wait for someone like Trump. Trump is a transactional president. And there's nothing that he sees that the Palestinian people can offer him in trade deals and commerce and investments and things of that sort. So he's not losing any sleep over the plight of the Palestinian people. This is a chance for other countries around the world to get together, form coalitions, and say, starting tomorrow, we're cutting all trade relations with Israel, and we will not stop, and we'll launch a global campaign to get more countries to join us and place economic pressure on Israel, and we're not gonna stop until there is a real solution, not just a stop to this genocide, but a real solution and the rights of the Palestinian people being recognized. If countries around the world do that, you don't need the US to stop it. The US will follow other countries as opposed to the other way around. So I think it's time for new leadership from around the world to emerge on the question of Palestine.
Fascinating insights. Muhannad Ayyash, thanks very much for joining me here on TRT World. Appreciate your taking out the time.